I'd like to call to order North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission meeting October 3rd, 2024 at 9 a.m. This is electronic meeting, is being streamed live, public to attend, recorded. It's a public record. Recording of the meeting will be available at www.ncwildlife.org. Commissioners are reminded to say your names before making motions, seconds, and before commenting. And at this time, I'll call on Margo Mingler for a roll call for commissioners present.
Good morning. I'm going to do a roll call for our commissioners present for our October 3rd, 2024 meeting. Monty Crump.
Here.
Mark Craig.
Here.
David Hoyle.
Here.
John Coley.
Here.
Wes Seegers.
Here.
Tommy Fonville.
Here.
Tom Berry.
Here.
Brad Standback.
Here.
Jim Ruffin. Ray Clifton.
Here.
Kelly Davis.
Here.
Steve Wyndham.
Here.
Landon Zimmer.
Here.
John Stone. Hayden Rogers. John Alexander. Tom Hayslip.
Here.
J.C. Cole. Mike Alford.
Here.
Joe Budd.
Here.
Reed Smith.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And thank you to all the members present. Appreciate your understanding the change in the meeting this week and appreciate your cooperation to our staff. Obviously, all of our thoughts and prayers go out to all the folks affected in Western North Carolina and other states. We will be mindful of our staff that have been affected and those that are working so hard there now, even as we speak, to rescue folks and alleviate the suffering and pain and start the recovery in Western North Carolina. Just appreciate everybody's thoughts and prayers, directed towards that. North Carolina General Statute 138A-15 mandates that the commission chair shall remind all commissioners of their duty to avoid conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict under this chapter, that the chair also requires as to whether there is any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before the commission at this time. It is the duty of each commissioner who is aware of such a personal conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict to notify the chair of the same. At this time, I'll ask, are there any conflict of interest, appearance otherwise, or recusals requested by any commissioner? Hearing none, I'll move forward to consideration. You all should have received in your packet approval of the July 25th minute meetings, which should be Exhibit A in your packet. Are there any additions or corrections to the July 25th minute meetings as presented? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote on the motion, and we'll have a roll call vote after a motion in a second for approval of the meetings. Is there a motion?
Mike Alford, move approval.
Is there a second?
Landon Zimmer, second.
Thank both of you all. Are there any further discussions or comments? Hearing none, Margo, roll call vote.
Bonnie Crump.
Yes.
Mark Craig.
Yes.
David Hoyle.
Yes.
John Coley.
Yes.
Wes Seegers. Tommy Fonville.
Yes.
Tom Berry.
Yes.
Brad Standback.
Yes.
Jim Ruffin.
Yes.
Ray Clifton.
Yes.
Kelly Davis.
Yes.
Steve Wyndham.
Yes.
Landon Zimmer.
Yes.
John Stone. Hayden Rogers. John Alexander. Tom Hayslip.
Yes.
J.C. Cole. Mike Alford.
Yes.
Joe Budd.
Yes.
Reed Smith.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
West
This time we'll move on to the agenda, and I'll call on Elizabeth Davis, who is our internal auditor, and who will present the fiscal year 25 internal audit plan review and approval. Elizabeth, your floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to present the fiscal year 2025 audit plan for approval. The plan was created based on an agency-wide risk assessment in consultation with management and in consideration of other reporting requirements, quality assurance, and improvement activities needed in staffing hours. So on our first page here, you'll see audits and consults listed. Audits were determined based on the risk identified during the risk assessment. The risk assessment will be discussed in detail during the next Finance Audit and Compliance Committee meeting, but that's how those engagements were noted for the audits noted. Next are consultations. Consultations are requested engagements in which management determines the scope and objectives of the review. I do want to note unplanned engagements can be completed. This is just how resources are initially focused on the risk and management based on risk and management requests at the time of planning. On the next page, you will see there are follow-ups listed. Follow-ups are reviews on corrective actions implemented to ensure risk identified in prior engagements mitigated the risk noted. There were 2 external reviews identified that have been completed over the last couple of years to follow up on, and I also reserved hours for any observations that may be identified this year that would need follow-up on. The final item on this page is a placeholder for investigations. If there were to be an allegation of fraud, waste, or abuse, we could review those allegations. On the next page is the risk assessment to create next year's audit plan, as well as the North Carolina Council of Internal Audit Reporting requirements. So if you'll remember in our last Finance Audit and Compliance Committee, we went through the self-assessment maturity model, the SAM. That's one of those requirements, and that'll occur every year as well. On the last page here, there are quality assurance and improvement activities noted to help us ensure we are in compliance with the Institute of Internal Audit Global Standards, as well as special projects. These specific special projects will assist with assessing risk. The continuous monitoring activities listed will allow for routine review of risks associated with these purchase cards. And the IT audit universe is essentially like an inventory of IT and will assist with the IT risk assessment process that is part of the annual risk assessment process. Happy to answer any questions or concerns, or I request that the plan be approved.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Are there any comments or questions from any of the commissioners reference the report that Elizabeth just gave on the internal audit plan review? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion in a second for the adoption and approval of Exhibit B, what you heard presentation on and presented.
Landon Zimmer, so moved.
Tom Berry, second.
Motion in a second to approve Exhibit B. Are there any more comments or questions from any of the commissioners? Hearing none, I'll ask Margot for a roll call vote approval of Exhibit B.
Bonnie Crump,
Yes.
Mark Craig,
Yes.
David Hoyle,
Yes.
John Coley,
Yes.
Wes Segers,
Yes.
Tommy Fumble,
Yes.
Tom Berry,
Yes.
Brad Standback,
Yes.
Jim Ruffin,
Jim Ruffin, yes.
thank you. Ray Clifton,
Yes.
Kelly Davis,
Yes.
Steve Wyndham,
Yes.
Landon Zimmer,
Yes.
John Stone, Hayden Rogers, John Alexander, Tom Hayslip,
Yes.
J.C. Cole, Mike Alford,
Yes.
Joe Bud,
Yes.
Reed Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And at this time, we'll move to Land and Water Access Division. Call on Ben Solomon, Assistant Chief of Land and Acquisition. He's going to present 4 phase 2 projects that's previously been through the phase 1 process, the Land and Water Access Committee. And so what we intend to do is ask Ben to present all 4 of these projects. And then we will have discussion and consideration of a motion, approve them all at one time, unless a commissioner wants to pull one, vote on one individually. We'll take a vote on the adopted law. After the presentation. That's for approval of the petition. So at this time, I'll call on Ben to do the presentation.
Good morning. Our first tract that we'll be looking at today is Exhibit C1. This is the West Tract. The West Tract is a 90-acre property in Cherokee County. It will be in addition to Nantahala Game Land. And being that this is a donation, this is the first time that you're seeing this tract that's being presented as a phase 1 and phase 2 simultaneously today. It is made up of mainly mixed pine and hardwood habitat, and it is also near to some priority management areas on the U.S. Forest Service owned Nantahala Game Land. Access for the public will be through the adjacent game land, and there are some administrative access opportunities that will allow staff to reach the property without having to go through adjacent game land. Again, this will be a donation. And the estimated stewardship costs are $1,000 for boundary establishment. Moving forward, we'll go to Exhibit C2. Exhibit C2 is the Turkey Ridge Callaway Mountain Tract. This is just under 1,300 acres in Yancey County. I'll scroll down to the detail map. This will be a new game land in Yancey County. It's fairly proximate to our Burnsville Depot. Acquisition of the tract will provide about 1.4 miles of riparian buffer along the Cane River. There are also great public fishing opportunities in the Cane River on the ponds that are located on the tract. These ponds are planned to be managed as warm water fisheries for public fishing access. And it's also worth noting that there are some sizable adjacent tracts that make good potential for expansion in future years. We will be purchasing the tract from the Conservation Fund at a price of $1.8 million. The property has appraised for just under $9.4 million as of September 5th. This was a Conservation Fund appraisal. It's worth noting that we will have a Yellow Book appraisal that we'll use for RPR grant purposes. The total stewardship estimate for this tract is $338,000 and $338,450. And that is for boundary establishment, as well as establishment of parking areas and road access improvement. Also worth noting, there are some structures on the tract. We are proposing at this time to demo those structures. So you see a few expenditures in there for asbestos testing, and we've accounted for potential asbestos abatement in our stewardship. And staff recommend phase 2 approval of the Turkey Ridge Callaway Mountain Tract, which is Exhibit C2.
Ben, Tom Berry here. I want to interject and just add a little something here. This is a very, very special track. I think we kind of zip through these things, but I want to stop for 30 seconds and recognize the efforts that not only staff put into this, but our funding partners, the Conservation Fund, working with Tim Sweeney, and the PR part of this program that comes out, you might say comes out of our pockets, about $1,000 an acre. And if I got my math right, it's this is over $16 million worth of value. So I just want to stop and recognize those involved. And it didn't just happen. There's a lot of work that went into it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Exhibit C3 is the Grassy Creek donation. Scroll down to our detail map. This is a property in Mitchell County. It's just over 15 acres. It is a very linear tract that provides a lot of protection as well as public fishing access to Grassy Creek, which eventually connects to the Toe River. This is a very important property for fishery resource that's there. There's also Eastern Hellbender that's found in this stretch of Grassy Creek. There's been some recent stream restoration work on the tract conducted by the Toe River Valley Watch. And it's also important to note, this will solidify long-term ownership and public access to a section of hatchery supported water and helps retain this section of public mountain trout water in perpetuity. So Again, this will be a donation and total stewardship costs are $17,500. This is for boundary establishment and to install a parking area. Moving forward to Exhibit C4. Exhibit C4 is the Marshall Tract. The Marshall Tract is just under 3,000 acres in Bladen County. This will be in addition to Whitehall Plantation Game Land. This is a very significant tract or significant habitat exists on the tract. There's a lot of natural longleaf pine that will benefit from our intensive management, which will include prescribed fire and a planned thinning. There are 37 species of greatest conservation need that are known to benefit from conservation of this tract. And again, just to note, we have big plans for restoration and improvement work to that intact natural longleaf pine stand. It's on the tract. A lot of really good small game habitat exists here. Moving up to the finances of the tract. We will be partnering with the Nature Conservancy on this acquisition. The Nature Conservancy was awarded just over 3.4 million in a NC Land and Water Fund grant. Our staff applied for a Acres for America NIFWIF grant, and we were awarded that in the amount of 517,000. And we'll also use PR wildlife restoration funds in the amount of $2,118,560 for a total acquisition cost of $6,053,000. The property value was established via an appraisal as well as a timber valuation. It's important to note that the appraisal did not have a timber valuation included, which made this a viable option to establish a price point. The total stewardship cost of this tract are $403,880. That includes boundary establishment, maintenance, road construction to bring in an access point, and road improvement work of existing roads, as well as a gate establishment. There is some projected revenue in the 5-year term, and that is a 500-acre thinning that we would plan in that 5-year period. An estimated revenue of that is $200,000. That will help offset some of those stewardship costs in the 5-year term. Staff recommend approval of Exhibit C4. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes our Phase 2 exhibits for this morning.
Before I call for a motion in a second, are there any more comments, questions about either one of these Phase 2 land acquisition recommendations?
Mr. Chairman, let me
Yes,
just
sir.
comment again on the general overlook here. This is a red letter day for the Wildlife Commission to acquire over 3,000 acres of 4,000 acres of land for roughly about $1,000 an acre. So again, compliments to our staff and all those that are involved. Thank you very much.
I agree with you. It's pretty clear when you look at the background on these projects, we get a lot of bang for our bucks out of this, without a doubt.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jim Ruffett. I do have a question on one of the pieces that we're looking at.
Go ahead, Jim.
Ben, in looking at the Grassy Creek piece, and you know, we've talked about this some already, but it's basically a brook behind a shopping center, which is across the street from a golf course going through the middle of a town. The pictures I've seen of it looks like a very nice little stream, but I'm just wondering, A, what the condition of that stream is today as we sit here, given all of the flooding that's going on up there, and B, what are our maintenance responsibilities once we acquire that tract? Because I noticed we were also taking over the maintenance for the trail that runs through there as well. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yes, sir. So just in establishing or solidifying the public access there, I think we do hope to maybe establish some parking area for the public. In terms of that trail maintenance, that's the Over Mountain Victory Trail that goes through there. And the majority of trail maintenance on that trail is all through partnership. And I don't want to speak to the exact entity that will help maintain that section of trail, but I do feel confident we do have a partnership in place to handle that trail maintenance of Over Mountain Victory Trail that runs through. And you're right, there's about a 1 mile section of trail that runs through that property. And in our phase one, our staff did note that is a huge plus for us in terms of angler access and also access for stocking and management of that section of Grassy Creek.
Thank you, Ben. Do we know what condition it's in right now, though? And if we have any responsibility once we buy this to put it back into back to where it was?
We do not know the current condition of Grassy Creek right now. That's something we'll definitely be making an attempt to figure out in the coming weeks or even months, as restoration to that part of North Carolina moves forward. But I do not think we won't have any obligation to restore it to a certain condition. I think it will likely be in our best interest, especially in the long term, to restore it if possible, as funding allows, but no known information on the condition today.
Thank you, Ben. That's very helpful.
And one thing to add, Commissioner Ruffin, I did talk to our fisheries chief and assistant chief, and this is a very important section of public mountain trout water in regards to usage. It's a heavily used piece of Grassy Creek, and we're excited to solidify ownership and keep it in the program.
Very good.
Are there any further questions or comments from any of the commissioners on any one of these phase two before I call for a vote?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to interject, since we're talking about mountain land up there. I have had an opportunity to deal with some of the recovery and restoration that's going on right now. And I just want to compliment one of our staff for the mountain region up there, Brandon Price, for all the effort. He is in charge of the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, and our staff is doing an unbelievably good job. So I know you'll probably have more comments later, but I wanted to interject that now. Thank you.
I think inadvertently, that's Brandon Jones who's running the EOC.
I think you're right, Brandon.
Yep. Sure.
Yes. Okay.
At this time, hear no further questions or comments. I'll call for a motion in a second for the approval and adoptions of exhibit C1, C2, C3, and C4.
Brad, stand back. I move we accept these.
Wes Seeger, second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further comment or debate, questions? Hearing none, I'll ask Margot for a roll call vote.
Bonnie Crump,
Yes.
Mark Craig,
Yes.
David Hoyle, John Coley,
Yes.
Wes Segers,
Yes.
Tommy Fumble,
Yes.
Tom Berry,
Yes.
Brad Stanback,
Yes.
Jim Ruffin,
Yes.
Ray Clifton,
Yes.
Kelly Davis,
yes,
Steve Wyndham,
Yes.
Landon Zimmer,
Yes.
John Stone, Hayden Rogers, John Alexander, Tom Hayslip,
Yes.
J.C. Cole, Mike Alford,
Yes.
Joe Budd,
Yes.
Reed Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion adopted. Thank you. At this time, thank you, Ben, too, again, for the work y'all do. At this time, I'll recognize Betsy Haywood, our Water Safety Rules Coordinator, to go over consideration of temporary rulemaking adoption reference Bladen County, White Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. First of all, we have Exhibit D1, which is a summary of public comments received on 15A and CAC 10F.0304. That is White Lake in Bladen County. During the open comment period, we had 2 virtual public hearings. The first one was on August 20th, 2024, and we had some technical glitches that prevented folks from being able to use the raise hand button and comment. So we advertised and held another one and held that on September 18th, 2024. It was well attended, and during the whole open comment period, we had a total of 56 comments received. 26 of those were in support of this proposed temporary rule. 22 do not support it. 8 held no preference. And you have actually the comments in your agenda pack. Summary. So I'll move on.
Is there anything else you need to go over?
No, sir, I just wondered if you all had any questions. sir.
Well, I was getting ready to ask, since you through with your
Yes,
presentation.
sir, yes, sir, on that.
Okay, so you've heard the presentation, you've had the rules, you've had an opportunity to review the public comments. Are there any comments, questions from the commissioners at this time before I proceed with calling for a motion? Second, floor is open for any questions. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if I could present exhibit D2.
Well, that's what I thought you were through. That's what I was asking.
I apologize. Okay. Shall I just briefly say what D2 is? Okay. This today is a request to adopt temporary rule amendment for White Lake and Bladen County. And what this temporary rule does is to require motorboats to travel perpendicular to the shore and at no wake speed within the regulated.
Is there anything else you need to go over?
No, sir.
Okay. Floor is still open for any comments or questions.
Betsy, Tom Hayslip, what is the definition of motorboats?
NCGS 75A-2, the definition of a motorboat means any vessel equipped with propulsion machinery of any type, whether or not the machinery is the principal source of propulsion, provided that propulsion machinery as used in this section shall not include an electric motor when used as the only means of mechanical propulsion of any vessel.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments for Betsy? Hearing none at this time, I'll ask for a motion and a second for the approval of exhibit D2.
I'll make a motion. Ray Clifton.
Is there a second?
Mike offered second.
Motion and a second for approval of exhibit D2. Is any further comment, questions, or debate? Hearing none, I recognize Margot for a roll call vote.
Lonnie Crump,
Yes.
Mark Craig,
Yes.
David Hoyle,
Yes.
John Coley,
Yes.
Wes Segers,
Yes.
Tommy Fonville,
Yes.
Tom Berry,
Yes.
Brad Stanback,
Yes.
Jim Ruffin,
Yes.
Ray Clifton,
Yes.
Kelly Davis,
Yes.
Steve Wyndham,
Yes.
Landon Zimmer,
yes,
John Stone, Hayden Rogers, John Alexander, Tom Hayslip,
Yes.
J.C. Cole, Mike Alford,
Yes.
Joe Bud,
Yes.
Reed Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, is that-
Motion is approved and adopted. Thank you very much, Betsy. I know you had a lot to go through, two public hearings and stuff, and you handled it very well. Good job. At this time, I will move forward to rulemaking portion of the agenda. I recognize Christian Water, the Inland Fisheries Division Chief. Six, annual site inland fisheries rules. Christian.
Thank you and good morning, Commissioners. The item I have for you this morning is the 2025-2026 inland fisheries rule proposals and associated public comment. Exhibit E1 and E2 are in your packet. Exhibit E1 contains the comments received or a summary of the comments received on our proposals. Exhibit E2 is the voting exhibit, which contains the rule text for your consideration. Want to note that the full set of public comments was provided to you prior to this meeting. I will be presenting a summary of the information found in the exhibits. And one last thing before I begin with that is also just want to note that the number of respondents per proposal was quite low and only ranged from 13 to 21 per proposal. So the first 8 proposals address public mountain trout waters. And F1 will remove the hatchery supported trout water section on Henry Fork in Burke County from public mountain trout waters. As you can see here, the support for that was only 53%. I will note that this is the first of 5 proposals that deal with boundaries and changes that are related to angler access. Support for these only ranged from 37 up to a high of 53%. And while none of us are support the loss of public mountain trout waters, these changes are needed to prevent conflict between anglers and those landowners who have posted against trespass. F2 will reclassify the section of hatchery supported trout waters on the Linville River within the U.S. Forest Service's Linville Gorge Wilderness Area in Burke County to wild trout waters. There was 62% of those that responded supported. Moving on to F3, this modified the upper boundary of hatchery supported trout waters on the Hungry River in Henderson County. And it was supported by 50% of the respondents. F4 will remove the hatchery supported trout water section on Little Rock Creek in Mitchell County from public mountain trout waters. And it was supported by 47% of the respondents. F5 will modify the lower boundary of hatchery supported trout waters on Big Rock Creek in Mitchell County. And only 44% of the 16 respondents supported this proposal. F6 will clarify that the delayed harvest trout water section on the Ararat River in Surrey County is the portion of river bordering the Ararat River Greenway downstream of NC 103 Bridge. And I want to just make the point that this simply codifies what's already happening on the ground. And we had 69 support for this proposal. F7 will modify the upper boundary of the hatchery supported trout waters on the Ararat River in Surrey County. 93% of the respondents supported. And F8 would modify the lower boundary of delayed harvest trout waters on the East Fork French Broad River in Transylvania County. Again, due to posting against trespass, and the support was only 37% of the 19 folks that commented. F9 deals with the age of youth. It will modify the age of youth from under the age of 18 to under the age of 16. And for reference, for fisheries, this would apply to delayed harvest trout waters where from 6 a.m. until noon on the first Saturday in June, only youth anglers may fish. We had 61% of respondents support. Moving on from trout, we had one proposal for crappie. It would establish an 8-inch minimum size limit and a 20 fish daily creel limit for crappie in Sharon Harris Reservoir. And we had 74% of the respondents support. And our final proposal, F11, will reduce the daily creel limit for striped and white mullet from 200 to 100 fish in aggregate and establish a limit of no more than 400 fish total per boat. I want to note that these creel limits were implemented in June through temporary rulemaking, and this simply makes these rules permanent. With that, that concludes my presentation, and staff recommends adoption of the final text for the 11 proposals as presented in Exhibit E2.
Are there any comments or questions about the exhibits presented in E1? Christian, just run over any of these rules, proposed rules. Hearing none. You ready for a motion in a second, right?
Yes, sir. I will say, I forgot, I didn't speak to the support. There was 65% support for the last proposal.
With that clarification, I'll call for a motion in a second for the adoption approval of Exhibit E2. Have a motion? So moved. That motion, Mark Craig, is there a second?
Joe Bud, second.
Second, thank you. Any comments, questions, or debate? Hearing none, I'll ask Margot for a roll call vote.
Lonnie Crump,
Yes.
Mark Craig,
Yes.
David Hoyle,
Yes.
John Coley,
Yes.
Wes Segers,
Yes.
Tommy Fonville,
Yes.
Tom Barry,
Yes.
Brett Stenbeck,
Yes.
Jim Ruffin,
Yes.
Ray Clifton,
Yes.
Kelly Davis,
Yes.
Steve Wyndham,
Yes.
Landon Zimmer,
Yes.
John Stone, John Alexander, Tom Hazlett,
Yes.
J.C. Cole, Mike Alford,
Yes.
Joe Bud,
Yes.
Reed Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion carried. It's approved. Thank you. This time, Darren Barnes, our Land and Water Access Division Chief, and from rulemaking adoption, 25-26 annual cycle land and water access group. Darren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Commissioners, I'll bring your attention to Exhibit F1 and F2, which are our 2025-2026 land and water access rule proposals and public comments. Exhibit F1 is a summary of our public comments that you have in your agenda package and you were presented with before the meeting. And Exhibit F2 is our voting exhibit for our 2025-2026 rule proposals. And we'll go through that. We have 6 proposals that we took to public hearing. Proposal G1 to prohibit target shooting on the Coal Mountain Game Land in Haywood County. We had a total of 16 responses with 56% support. And I will reiterate Christian's comment about our overall comments were pretty low, which ranging from 11 to 19 for these rule proposals. Moving on, we'll go to proposal G2, which adds Bates Bay River Tract in Pamlico County to the Goose Creek Game Land program. And then hunting for deer, bear, and turkey will be by permit only. Our responses were 68% support out of 19 respondents. Proposal G3, distinguish the 2 waterfowl impoundments on the Gold Rock Game Land. We'll name the impoundment on the Outfall Canal Tract, the E. Merrill Edwards Loop Road waterfowl impoundment, and we'll name the impoundment on the new Willow Point Tract, the Willow Point waterfowl impoundment. And hunting on the Willow Point impoundment will be by permit only. We had 78% support out of 18 respondents. Proposal G4, during the open days of the seasons for game birds and game animals, we would restrict the use of bicycles on Johns River Game Land in Burke County to hunters engaged in the act of hunting. We had 78% support out of 18 respondents. Proposal G5 would restrict access on the Lantern Acres Game Land posted waterfowl impoundments to permit hunters only. And this is to reduce disturbance to waterfowl during open waterfowl hunting seasons. We had 73% support out of 15 respondents. And lastly, proposal G6, expand the Little Fork State Forest Game Land from a 3-day per week area to a 6-day per week area. And we had 73% support out of 11 respondents. And with that, Mr. Chairman, the staff would propose Exhibit F2 for approval of the 2025-2026 land and water access rule proposals.
Okay, at this time, I'll open the floor for any questions for Darren, what he just presented. Are there any questions commissioners represent for these rulemaking proposals? Here, no comments or question. I'll entertain a motion, second for the adoption of Exhibit F2.
Landon Zimmer, so moved.
Mike Alford, second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further comment or debate? Hearing none. Was there somebody say something? Hearing none. Margot, roll call, please.
Lonnie Crump,
Yes.
Mark Craig,
Yes.
David Hoyle,
Yes.
John Coley,
Yes.
Wes Segers,
Yes.
Tommy Fonville,
Yes.
Tom Berry,
Yes.
Brad Stanback,
Yes.
Jim Ruffin,
Yes.
Ray Clifton,
Yes.
Kelly Davis,
Yes.
Steve Wyndham,
Yes.
Landon Zimmer,
Yes.
John Stone, Hayden Rogers, John Alexander, Tom Hazlet,
Yes.
J.C. Cole, Mike Alford,
Yes.
Joe Bud,
Yes.
Reed Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion is adopted, approved, thank you. This time I'll call on Brad Howard, our Wildlife Management Division Chief, to present permanent rulemaking adoption recommendations for 25-26 annual cycle wildlife management rules. Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Morning, Commissioners. I'll call your attention now to exhibits G1 and G2. These represent the 25-26 rule proposals and public comments for the Wildlife Management Division's rule proposals. As mentioned before, Exhibit G1 contains all the public comments as well as a summary. And Exhibit G2 has the entire text of the proposals, which is ultimately our voting exhibit. Proposal H1 was to establish a definition and rule for a submersion trapping system and apply the 72-hour trap attendance requirements that exist for completely submerged conibear type traps to other legal trap types that are set as a submersion trapping system. Public comments were overwhelmingly in support of this proposal. H2 is also a fur bearer proposal to change the reporting requirements for licensed fur dealers from monthly to annually to make reporting consistent with other licenses and permit reporting requirements that are based on the July 1 to June 30th license period. Once again, the public comments was overwhelmingly in support of this proposal. H3 is the proposal dealing with our turkey season adjustments, and this will shift the opening date of the regular turkey season to the Saturday on or immediately after April the 11th, with the season length left unchanged. Shift the opening date for the youth only season to the Saturday before April 11th, and reduce the youth only season from 7 to 2 days. This change also defines eligibility for the youth only season as individuals less than 16 years of age. Of 167 respondents to this proposal, 60% were in support, 33% did not support, and 7% had no preference. Mr. Chairman, that represents the wildlife management proposals, and staff recommends the adoption of all three of the wildlife management proposals.
Thank you, Brad. I'll open the floor now. Are there any questions, comments to Brad about any of these proposals? I know they've all been vetted well, particularly H3 reference to turkey. So hearing no comments, we'll move forward to accepting the motion and second for the approval exhibit G2 as presented.
Tom Berry, make a motion to approve.
Dave Hoyle, second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further comments or debate? Hearing none, roll call, please. Marta.
Bonnie Crump,
Yes.
Mark Craig,
Yes.
David Hoyle,
Yes.
John Coley,
Yes.
Wes Seegers,
Yes.
Tommy Fonzel,
Yes.
Tom Berry,
Yes.
Brad Stanback,
Yes.
Jim Ruffin,
Yes.
Ray Clifton,
Yes.
Kelly Davis,
Yes.
Steve Wyndham,
Yes.
Landon Zimmer,
Yes.
John Stone, Hayden Rogers, John Alexander, Tom Hazlet,
Yes.
J.C. Cole, Mike Alford,
Yes.
Joe Bud,
Yes.
Reed Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion stopped and approved. I want to thank all of our staff. It takes a lot of work to go through these. Particularly, I want to mention our staff that worked on the turkey biology and the data. This is a result of years and years of the gobbler survey, putting out the gobbler boxes, and making sure we have the data we needed to make a shift of how we deal with turkey season to make sure that North Carolina remains where it's at. not seeing what's going on in other states with declining wild turkey populations. My hat's off to how aggressive and how much all of our staff, not only turkey, to provide us this kind of data. And just thank the commission, thank all of you for hard work to do that, because our sportsmen and our resources, it's beneficiary. Thank all. Also, several of our staff members mentioned the low number of comments. We should be grateful for a year. We're not covered up with a bunch of controversial stuff, hundreds or even thousands of comments. It's good to have a year where I see Brad give it a thumbs up, where we're not getting a lot of controversial items. You know, that's good in itself. I mentioned earlier in opening statements, and Cam will have some comments, so I'll be short. This is other than behalf of the commission, Wildlife Commission itself. We're grateful to our employees. We know a lot of them have been personally affected in Western North Carolina, and they continue to work and serve our public. And we've done 104 wildlife officers have been there. Our staffs have worked hard at hatcheries, assessing damage, and they'll be doing that continually going into the future. We've got a lot of work to do. We've been here before, but not quite on this level. We appreciate all those efforts and thankful that all of our employees are safe. We'll be taking actions in the future to help support them as much as they need personally. Some of those have lost their homes. So commissioners, be on the lookout for opportunities that we'll have to, help them our employees in the future. And I know a lot of commissioners and employees here have been involved already in relief efforts, spending a lot of time, money, and effort. And thank you on behalf of the state for your efforts for doing that as well. I'll close quickly. We've had our application process open and closed. We're taking applications for executive director. We have those applications. Mark Craig is in Raleigh with me here today. We're going to have a discussion on how to proceed. We'll be getting with the executive committee, which is serving as a search committee, decide the next steps of winning the field of these applicants. And again, with the goal, hopefully, to have the goal of being able to name a new executive director at the December 2024 meeting. So that's just if any other commissioners have any comments or questions about the process, after the executive committee meets, I'll immediately notify the committee, the entire commission, of where we're at and how we're proceeding, and be completely as transparent as we possibly can. Because ultimately, the full commission will vote on who the final person that's approved to be the next executive is. So that's all the comments I have, and this time I'll call Kenny for your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I wanted to start again by talking a little bit about what's going on in Western North Carolina and the agency's involvement with that. And as you noted, well noted, that the employees that live in the region and also the commissioners that live in the region, that y'all are in our thoughts and prayers, and just want to commit that this agency is committed in the long run. You see a lot about what's going on, and I'm sending updates to you about what's going on currently in that region. But we do understand that this is going to be a long-term rebuild. We're in rescue recovery right now for human lives, and as we transition into that with our infrastructure and our lands in Western North Carolina, we're in for the long haul. We're committed to that. We've allocated lots of resources across the state, and we will continue to do that. We see the law enforcement crews out there, but our construction crews, our land and water access crews, our education crews, everybody's on hand, ready to go, and we will be putting people in the region, taking people out of the region for some time. So I'll keep you posted on that as we move through this process. I wanted to finish just highlighting something that that's really important to celebrate. And in Chatham County, a couple of weeks ago, we had not just us, but those communities there had a huge It's called Back in the Woods Hunt. It's been going on for several years and had to take pause during COVID times, but I did want to acknowledge those communities of one of the largest disabled hunts in the country that just took place in that region down there. And there was a total of 59 disabled hunters that were invited, and there was 40 whitetail deer that were harvested by those disabled hunters. So this is a really special event, and I wanted to personally thank Commissioner Tom Hayslip for his attendance to that, and all the staff that took part in that, and the landowners and the communities to come together and pull this off. It takes planning all year to do this, and it's a multi-day event. And it's really special. So I did want to finish with that great event. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments.
Are there any other comments, commissioners? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned.